major U.S. stock averages are seeing strong gains on this Wednesday. The Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P 500 are all higher by over 0.5%, with the Dow adding triple digits today. Now, we did get that better than expected ADP jobs figure, but ISM services did come in weaker than expected. So joining me to weigh in on the action is Tim Anderson of TJM Investments. Tim, great to have you here today.
It's nice to be talking to you.
We're seeing the equity market higher in today's session. We got the ADP figure ahead of the jobs report, but we still had the Fed minutes. So what's going on here today?
Well, clearly the market's having a very strong reaction to the positive ADP number. We'll get more data on the employment situation on Friday. We'll get the Fed minutes this afternoon. But, the market has done really a pretty good job of absorbing a fair amount of selling over the last week and a half. And it certainly seems like the path of least resistance is higher.
Well, we've prepared a couple charts for you since Tim is here today, and we'll be taking a closer look at the S&P 500 as well as the Nasdaq. And today's a great day to talk about it,
Sure.
given that the indexes are higher by at least 0.5%. So, Tim, tell us about the S&P 500.
Well, the S&P 500 had a gain of 5.5% in the first quarter, certainly very respectable. The Nasdaq was clearly an outperformer. It gained just a fraction under 10%. Now, the one little caution on the S&P is it has had, since its peak, the day after the State of the Union address, although it wasn't really titled that, the S&P has had a couple of lower highs and was just a little bit less than 1% above its 50-day moving average. It challenged that about a week and a half ago and held and rallied up. And now we've got a pretty good move in the S&P today. And I think if we break that little near-term downtrend we'd had on the last couple of highs, we're maybe about 20 points away from an all-time high on the S&P.
And what about the Nasdaq index?
The Nasdaq is in a much stronger situation after really underperforming a little bit in the period from the election to the end of the year. The Nasdaq is right now about 12 points above its all-time closing high. There was some resistance in the 59.20 level. We've had maybe 6 or 8 closes in that range. The old closing high was 59.14. We're at about 59.26 right now. And all indications are that this rally is very likely to maintain itself throughout the end of the day, and we'll probably have an all-time closing high today on the Nasdaq.
And now that you've given us your technical analysis for the Nasdaq and S&P 500, I do want to switch on over to fundamentals again.
Sure.
At the end of this week, actually starting tomorrow, we have President Trump as well as his Chinese counterpart meeting at Mar-A-Lago. And there are a lot of expectations, especially after Trump's comments earlier this week, and expectations for tax reform, deregulation, as well as healthcare. So what do you think we'll hear from that meeting?
Well, I think clearly the market's focus will be on any hints that you can get out of trade, because he obviously made that a very big issue, particularly trade with China. I think that's number one. Number two might be some comments on the relative currency valuations, although the currency manipulation claim has died off quite a bit. And then on a more geopolitical front, whether or not there's any talk about North Korea, which has been kicking up its heels quite a bit in the last couple of months, and or China's kind of proactive land grab or sea grab measures going on in the South China Sea. I don't know that we'll get a lot of clarity on any conversations about that. I would think that first and foremost, the market and most observers will be looking for comments on trade going forward with China.
Well, hopefully we do get some comments that give us at least a little bit more clarity. So thank you as always for all your comments.
Sure, it's nice talking with you.